This year's theme is a new day, new us, but also new us. Liturgy collective impact to respond to a new normal. Today, we will have a unique um, and timely opportunity to discuss the policies, practices, and partnerships that work for students from Sonoma to the Central Valley. We'll get just in time updates about what is happening at the national level, the state level, and the regional levels that will impact our collective impact efforts both this upcoming academic year and as you approach the gubernatorial and midterm elections in 2026. It's just 450 days away. My name is Angela Boviam. I thank you. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Students Rising Above. I see a heckler that just walked in. Eli Kennedy. And I am also the Vice Chair of NCCPC, as well as I'm happy to announce this September I will be joining NCAN's Policy Council on NCAN Center for National Quality Network, and I'm going to pass it on to my co-conspirator, Simone.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to De Anza. Welcome to the South Bay. I used to live here. I miss this weather. Okay. I currently live in Oakland, and it's about 20 degrees cooler. And so I'm going to enjoy lunch outside today. Anybody wants to join me? I'm really excited to be co-MC today with Angela, as well as co-host of today's event. We have a super jam-packed day with student-centered champions who partner with NCCPC and organizations like One Goal. Who am I? My name is Simone Morales. I have the privilege of being the executive director for One Goal here in the Bay Area. I am also a steering committee member for NCCPC. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm one of the co-hosts for today. And so this has been a really awesome 5-6 months maybe of planning and thinking through like what would be the most impactful for our time here today for all those who are in the audience. But before we get started, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. A lot of you probably have already discovered the restrooms are all the way to the left over there. There's a gender neutral restroom on the second floor. There's also other restrooms on the second floor. You could take the elevator that's also located in that area as well. This is an in-person only event. If you attended last year, you might have remembered that it was hybrid and we had some people on Zoom. This year is a lot more intimate. Those who are in the room are those who will be participating today. So there won't be a way for folks to Zoom in. If you had some friends who missed it, take some really good notes for them. Or tell them to pop up. Not too late. They can still come and join with the crew. To make things accessible, all of our breakout sessions will be in this building. Specifically, most of the breakouts will be right across the hall. And lunch will be served in the hallway as well. You probably saw a lot of signs. There's no food and drinks allowed in this particular room. I see there's drinks in the room. Okay, so that's okay. Some water. Janelle said, okay. Janelle said the drinks are okay. But when lunch is served, we ask that you find any kind of seating located in the hallways, maybe upstairs, even outside. It's a really nice day. And then lastly, you'll see QR codes. Everyone should have a welcome packet or at least a one-pager. Front and back, there's a QR codes, which will take you directly to the event resource toolkit. It's also located up here. So if you want to pull your phone out and scan from there, you can. On the link, you'll see our program, the Know Before You Go By, and a Padlet where you can ask questions and share resources with other attendees.
Thanks, Simone. I actually forgot to mention NCCPC. We're a coalition of members, and amongst our members, we serve over 300,000 students across the Bay Area, across 13 counties. And it means so much for me to sit on the steering committee, and also, sorry, just like that. SRA has been a founding member since like 5 years ago. Mayor, we were founded in 2019. So we've been a founding member since 2019. And it's really great to see everybody here. Our program includes a welcome. I'm just going to go through our agenda today, okay? Welcome with local leaders who are excited to introduce who I'm excited to introduce in just a few minutes. Our morning plenary topic is post-secondary matters now more than ever. We're excited to welcome leaders from Riverside County, Office of Education, the California State University, our event sponsor, Sobrado Philanthropies, who will help us ground us in the continued value of education and college. We'll have a 45-minute lunch, and as Simone says, I was just outside in the morning, so I do invite you. It's such a beautiful day where you can all network during our lunch. At 12:45, we'll go into a roundtable session. So roundtable one, round one breakout session is one, and then at 2 o'clock, we'll have round two. We'll come back into this room for an afternoon plenary session. On the state of education, affordability, and financing, where we'll be joined by NCCPC Steering Committee Chair David Silver, over here, and here from San Jose State College, Santa Clara University Scholarship Investment Board, and College Futures Foundation to address the growing cost of college and how we can support our students in paying our state's diverse offering of post-secondary pathways. Then we'll close the event with calls to actions from our coalition leaders and an opportunity for those who opted in to join us for our networking reception about 10 minutes away from here. To opt into the networking reception, please scan the QR code in our event resource toolkit.
I just want to add, if you do plan to join us for networking, you do have to sign up. It's like limited space. Set BJs and simple. If this is going to be the whole crew, we got to let them know. So to kick off the day, as you can see, you have a super jam-packed schedule. But I'm really excited to welcome out Dr. Omar Torres, the president of De Anza College, to give us a welcome to the campus and a land acknowledgement.
I'm going to use this mic. Can you hear me?
Yo, it doesn't have volume.
Yeah, just kidding. Peace, bye. Let me start with the land acknowledgement and thank you all for being here this morning. As we gather here today, it is important to recognize that we are guests on this land. We acknowledge that we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ohlone peoples. We live among the original caretakers and stewards of this land, the Nuakama Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area, who have understood their interconnectedness of all things and maintained harmony with nature for millennia. Our vision is to continue a beautiful legacy of ancestral wisdom and cultural keeping in relationship to the land with much love and respect. We understand we do this work with the contradiction that we are in occupied territory after the massacre and genocide of Ohlone peoples, with Western definitions of political borders. We are determined to educate ourselves as students, educators, and community members, to decolonize and deconstruct, to learn cultural humility, and give life to social justice inside and outside of the classroom. If you would like to learn more about the Ohlone and history of this land, please visit deanza.edu/equity office and click on the Land Acknowledgement tab for more information. Thank you. And now, good morning, everyone. Good morning. As president of De Anza College, it is an honor to welcome the Northern California College Promise Coalition and the California Community College's Chancellor's Office to our beautiful campus today. Your presence here underscores our shared commitment to making higher education accessible to all students regardless of their economic circumstances. But before we begin, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the incredible staff who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make today's event possible. From our facilities team who prepared these spaces, to our technology team to help prepare the technical logistics, to our Office of Communications who worked diligently with the NCCPC Executive Director, Meredith Lee. Yes, let's give her a round of applause. Everyone's dedication exemplifies the collaborative spirit that truly makes De Anza College a place where dreams become a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, We gather at a truly pivotal moment in our nation's history. In an era of rapidly technological advancements, economic uncertainty, and social transformation, a post-secondary education has never been more critical than right now. The challenges that are facing our communities, from climate change to the birth of artificial intelligence, from healthcare disparities to economic inequality, all of these and more demand a workforce that be equipped with both the technical skills and critical thinking abilities. And guess what? Community colleges, we sit at the forefront of ensuring and preparing our students to make sure that we can meet these challenges head first. Today's discussions around college promise programs, financial aid innovation, and student success initiatives could not be timelier. I am particularly excited about the topics that our Northern California College Promise Coalition will explore with you today. From removing financial aid barriers to education, to creating comprehensive support system that helps students not just enroll, but persist and complete their educational goals. I want to extend a special welcome to our elected officials and funders who have joined us today. Your leadership in investing in community college education demonstrates your understanding that these institutions are not just educational centers, but economic engines that drive prosperity in our communities. Your support makes the difference between a student dropping out due to financial stress and that same student at the end of the year who walks across our graduation stages, ready to contribute to our workforce and to our democracy. Let's acknowledge the stark reality we face today. Higher education affordability remains one of the greatest barriers to student success. While tuition at community colleges remains relatively accessible, the true cost of education, also factoring in housing, transportation, textbooks, childcare, facing living expenses, and more, those prices continue to rise. Too many of our students are working multiple jobs, sometimes skipping meals, even sleeping in their cars while pursuing their education. This is not just about a policy change. It's a moral imperative that demands our immediate attention and innovative solutions as we look to the future. Our most vulnerable student populations, first-generation college students, students of color, undocumented students, single parents, veterans, those who are experiencing homelessness, and more. They face additional systemic barriers that we must address with intentionality and with urgency. The promise of higher education cannot remain just that, a promise for students who have the potential but lack the resources. This is why we are all here today and why we're working together. It matters so profoundly, the work that we're all doing. Community colleges serve nearly half of all undergraduate students in California, and nationally, we educate more students of color, more first-generation college students, and more students from low-income families than any other source of higher education today. We are, quite literally, the economic and social mobility, not just of our state, but of this country. When we remove financial barriers and provide comprehensive support to students, remarkable things happen. Students who might never have imagined themselves in a college classroom discover their potential. Parents working minimum wage jobs who earn certificates that may actually double their income, if not more. Recent immigrants develop the language and technical skills that allow them to contribute their talents to our communities. Veterans transition successfully to civilian careers. High school students see a clear pathway to their future, and so much more. But we cannot do this work alone. Success requires unprecedented collaboration between community colleges, four-year universities, TK through 12 systems, employers, community organizations, governments at all levels, and more. It requires elected officials who understand that investing in community college students is investing in economic development. It requires employers who partner with us to create career pathways and invest in students through internships, apprenticeships, on-the-job training, scholarships, and other avenues that will get our students into the workforce eventually. Providing them with the exposure of the emerging technologies that are present while showcasing the promise and the value of a long-term career. So truly, it requires us all to think creatively about how we can remove barriers and build bridges towards these opportunities. NCCPC represents exactly this type of collaborative approach. By working together with our partners, sharing best practices, and coordinating our efforts, we can ensure that geography, family income, or life circumstances do not determine a student's access to quality higher education. So today, let's commit to earning the trust of our current and future students. Let's leave here with concrete plans, renewed partnerships, and the determination to make College Promise programs not just a vision, but a reality for every student with dreams of a better future. Before we move forward with today's program, it's my privilege to now introduce a leader, my boss, who's been instrumental in advancing these very ideals through our district and beyond. I'd like you to please join me in welcoming the Chancellor of the Foothill De Anza Community College District, Lee Lambert. Chancellor Lambert brings decades of experience in community college leadership and a truly deep, unwavering commitment to student success and equity. His vision and guidance have been essential in positioning our district as a leader in innovative approaches to student support and community partnerships. So Chancellor Lambert, please join me in officially opening today's important conversations. And thank you.
No, it's not working. And again, be here for the.
Okay, well, thank you, President Torres, for that introduction. And good morning, everybody. Morning. Let's try one more time. Good morning. I want to echo the thank yous and the acknowledgments that President Omar extended to each and every one of you that are here today and all of our supporters, elected officials, other public officials, funders, nonprofit organizations, our education leaders. But there's two people I want to call out specifically as for a special thank you. First and foremost, we have here with us our Board of Trustees member, Laura Casas. Thank you, Laura, for your leadership, because you, in partnership with the other board members, none of this would be possible, so thank you. And another special thank you. He doesn't need an introduction, but he's a former trustee of Foothill De Anza, and he was part of the original 5 who hired me here to this part of the beautiful state of California from Arizona, and now Assembly Member Patrick Aarons. I want to begin anchoring us in a simple truth. The Foothill De Anza Community College District exists to change lives, and right now, that mission is more urgent and important than ever. In a region, right here in the Silicon Valley, where the average earnings top $150,000, but 54,000 low-income households in San Jose alone don't have access to affordable housing, and 1 in 10 households hold 15% of all the wealth. We must ask, what is this prosperity for? We see the consequences in stark terms. Over 12,000 unhoused residents, a 126,000 gap between the highest and lowest earners. Renters needing more than $136,000 to just stay housed in this Silicon Valley region. This is why we must reaffirm that promise of post-secondary education, not just as a pathway to degrees, but as a gateway to equity and upward mobility. At Foothill De Anza, we offer 21st century degrees and credentials that lead to family-sustaining careers, including in tech-adjacent fields like healthcare, clean energy, advanced manufacturing. But these opportunities must be accessible to everyone, especially historically marginalized communities who are at risk of being locked out of the Silicon Valley's AI-driven future and the state of California's economy. We're making bold moves. Thanks to the community support of our Measure G bond, we just purchased and took ownership yesterday of an apartment complex just a few minutes from here for our students. And we're on our way, hopefully, to doing the same for our employees, hopefully in the next couple of months. We're also grateful to our TK20 and nonprofit partners, including those in the NCCPC. You have trusted relationships with our students and our families that we could never replicate. So it's together that we bridge these critical gaps. So here's my hope and my ask. My hope is that the Silicon Valley, state of California, continue to focus on being inclusive, as it is innovative. And my ask is for elected officials and funders in the room is simple. Invest in systems that connect talent to opportunity, support affordable housing, AI-enhanced learning, and community-based solutions that allow students not to just survive, but to thrive. Because when our students rise, Silicon Valley rises, the state of California rises, and our United States of America rises. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chancellor Lambert, for supporting our bid and for supporting all the students in the region that this district educates. As we get ready to bring up one of our co-hosts, I'd like to take the time to acknowledge all of our event co-hosts and sponsors. Thank you to the sponsors, Sienza College, College Futures Foundation, Susky's Foundation, Sobrados Philanthropies. Please give them a round of applause.
And to our co-hosts who worked alongside NCCPC for the past few months to make today possible, Beyond 12, UCLA Cal Kids Institute, and OneGoal. Give them a round of applause.
Next, I'd like to bring up and thank our next co-host from the California Community College, David O'Brien, representing Community College and the NCCPC Advisory Council member.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm not going to make you say it louder, just good morning. Well, really want to thank, on behalf of Chancellor Sonny Christian and Deputy Chancellor Dr. Rowena Tomanang, our newest advisory council member here at NCCPC, who I'm standing in for today. Really want to thank NCCPC, the sponsors, the co-hosts, in particular, Chancellor Lambert and President Torres for hosting us at your wonderful campus here in, yes, I'm biased, the finest system of higher education in California organization. Dr. Rowena Tomanang, who I think is pretty well known to a lot of those here in the South Bay and Silicon Valley, served for many years as president of San Jose City College, is certainly somebody who, she wasn't able to be here today, has a long history of supporting local college promise programs, and is proud of the fact that when she was president of San Jose City College, made sure that they were the first campus strong community member and campus partner of NCCPC. I just want to take a second to, first of all, let's acknowledge the newest NCCPC Advisory Council members. So if you're here, please stand when I call your name. And if you're not here, there'll just be a few minutes of awkward silence while everybody is wondering when I'm just going to give up and move on to the next law. Alice Ray, Vice President for Government Relations at the Association of Independent California Colleges and Universities. Roger from Ballots. The delegate for AICCU, Dr. Nicola Pitchford, President of Dimitri University. Thank you so much for being here. Nicola Jaluka, Vice President, Chief Advocacy Officer at Townsend Public Affairs. Robert Pohl. And then, of course, my boss, our Deputy Chancellor, who joined us on late 2024, Dr. Tomanang. I get to work closely with Rowena and NCCPC as Rodelia for the California colleges. Lastly, I want to recognize our long-standing advisory council members. So please stand if you're here. I know Dr. April Romo is here. Primary Compliment State University Office of the Chancellor, State Standing Mayor Jaffa, Licky Shaffer, Mayor of Oakville, with you so much. And Dr. Margaret Cantra, CEO of Cost Promise. Still in DC, unfortunately, but a longstanding advisory council member. And of course, as everybody here should know, or else you failed today's quiz, a former chancellor of Foothill De Anza Community College District and former president of De Anza College and the originator Cost Promise at the national level. And as Michael Tubbs, founder of End Poverty in California Beer, wasn't able to admit it, but thank you, Mayor Tubbs, as well. I just want to take a minute to note, because I know that I have the opportunity to introduce our elected officials who are here, but to me and to the California Community College's Chancellor's Office, NCCPC really underscores the value of two things in executive work together. It's the importance of regional work, and it's the importance of partnerships and community support. And I say that regional work because none of us can do this work inside of us, but we're a big state, 40 million people. I was just in Canada. Our state, our one state, has approximately the population of the entire country of Canada, and more, by the way, than the entire population of Australia. We're a very big state. We can't do this work in silos, but we also can't solve everything as much as those of us Sacramento bureaucrats would like to think we can. We also can't solve anything from our Sacramento bubble, right? We need regional coalitions and partners like NCCPC. We also need partnerships because we can't do this work in silos and we can't do this work alone. Right, between our 10 UC campuses, our 23 CSUs, our 73 community college districts, our 85 Class A independent nonprofit colleges, our thousands school districts, and our hundreds, thousands, countless of community-based organizations and partners, we need to partner together on this. And in particular, I want to give a shout out to our local and state elected officials and public officials who are here. You play such an important role in making those connections, right? In ensuring that the work to get students access to a higher education or workforce training or access to those career opportunities that Chancellor Lambert mentioned, that doesn't just happen in, again, our little silos, but that it's something that matters to, the county of Santa Clara, right? To our city mayors. We have a lot of mayors in NCCPC, as well as to our state elected officials as well. So, and our philanthropy partners are the last triple leg of this keyword. So thank you to those of you that are involved in philanthropy and funding this work. I want to just take a moment before I turn it over to acknowledge a lot of incredible breakout sessions today. So please come to those. It's probably a conflict of interest if I tell you to come to mine. So I'm just saying it's at 3 p.m. in MLC 109. That's all the Secretary Assistant Racer. But all seriousness, come to any of them. These look amazing. The only thing that I'm a little bit upset about is that I can't go to the upper floor during that hour. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you to NCCPC. And it's my pleasure to introduce somebody who is certainly no stranger to this guest, our guest college, and this work, Assemblymember Patrick Ahrens.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. It's always great to be back on campus. It's so good to see so many familiar faces in this room. I started here at De Anza College. I remember when they were building this building. I actually wasn't here when I was here, but a lot of people in this room gave me the opportunity to be where I am today. I want to thank Trustee Laura Casas, who's here from the Foothill De Anza Board of Trustees, especially. Laura was on the Board of Trustees when I was a student representative on the board and was one of my mentors. And so thank you, Laura, for all of your leadership. I also want to acknowledge some incredible elected officials who've played a very pivotal role in helping just reemerge and reinvest and support the Promise campaign in California. We have Margaret Abicoca on the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, Assemblymember Mia Bonta, Loretta Chavez with the Eastside Union High School District Board of Trustees, Alicia Cortez with Gabbard Community College, although she used to work for us, but we'll give her to Gabbard for a while. Clay Hale with that other community college, San Jose Evergreen. Thank you, Clay. Wait, Clay. Derek Grassi with Mount Pleasant Elementary School District. Thank you, Derek. Allison Hicks, Mountain View City Council member. Thank you, Allison, for being here. Hong Ha Hong, Franklin County School Board trustee. Of course, Assembly member Ash Kalra. I believe he's on video later. But I'm here at Mercy. It's not a competition. But if it was, I'm winning. Thank you, Assemblymember Kalra. Fun fact, Assemblymember Kalra also went to DeOta College many years before me. But is an amazing, amazing advocate for us. Of course, Dr. Martha Cantor, Cameron Sauce with the city of Pinole. He's our mayor. Where's Cameron? Look at Cameron. We have Thomasina Wallace with Governor's Office of Service and Community Engagement. Thomasina. And we also have our former Oakland mayor and candidate for state treasurer, Libby Schott. Thank you, Libby. Thank you so much for being here. We also want to give a certain recognition to our funders who we can't do this work without them. You know, politicians like to say that we help people, but the funders actually help people. So we ask that you continue to give. And before you leave today, let's talk about how you can give some more. The California Community Foundation, the Central Valley Community Foundation, College Futures Foundation, Hartnell College Foundation, the Michelson 20MN Foundation, Sobrato Organization, SCOG Foundation, and the Tipping Point Community. Thank you all so much. I will be brief because we have more important things to get to, but this idea of College Promise really started here at DM's College. It started with Dr. Martha Cantor. It started with people dreaming of a vision for meeting students where they are and what they actually need. And I was one of those students. I was housing insecure. I was homeless. I was food insecure. Both my parents addicted to drugs. And we know from data and statistics all too well where the majority of those students end up. And it was because of so many people here at De Anza College that gave me an opportunity and saw something that I didn't see in myself, who believed in me, who got me into the EOPS program when the state of California was cutting it and not letting people in during the Great Recession. And it was intentional faculty members, it was staff members, and it started a movement that has now reached across the United States, so we're not finished. I just got elected this past November. My very first bill was to expand the College Promise program to part-time students. But the work is not finished. We sustained funding, which I know so many of our generous donors understand. We need wraparound services. When I was a student here, we did not have a food pantry. Now almost every community college district has food pantries. When I was here, we had started talking about housing. And now we are going to be one of a handful of community colleges who are going to be providing housing for students, faculty, and staff, thanks to the vision of Chancellor Lambert and the Board of Trustees. Every single challenge that the community gives community colleges, they constantly rise to the occasion. And so it's incumbent upon holding elected officials like me and others accountable to push more, because every dollar we give the community colleges, unlike other investments, maybe with the exception of a few, really reignite and reinvest, and we see so much more out of the investments that we make. So we are entering into meeting students where their basic needs are, often unfunded, and it is incumbent upon us in this room to begin that same conversation just where the College Promise program started about how can the community colleges best serve students, and we can serve them better than the UCs and CSUs, and we can serve them, and that's not a dig, that's a fact. And all we need is an opportunity, we need funding, and we need help from our generous supporters in this room. I think you can see through the actions and conversations of today how inspiring and how thoughtful so many people are really dedicated to this work and committed to making a difference in this space. And I am one of many amazing people who will join you in making that happen. And I just want to say how incredibly grateful. I also just want to say before I end, just want to say a special thank you to Marissa Spatafor, who's right here in the back, our Associate Vice President, dear to call it. Also, I met you when I was a student, and also saw something in me that I didn't see in myself and always believed in me. So it's coming home for me. So I thank you for indulging me, for everyone. But this is the power of community colleges, and this is the power of what we can do when we give students an opportunity who so many of our government institutions overlook or fail to help. And the community colleges do that. And so that is the narrative that I'm going to be pressing during my tenure in Sacramento. And I'm so looking forward to working with each and every one of you to believe in that. Thank you all so much for being here.
All right. As you can see, we're trying to make sure we're back on schedule, so we're living a little fast. Good morning again, everyone. I mentioned earlier my name is Simone Morales. I have the privilege of being the executive director for One Goal. Just a little overview about One Goal, then we'll jump into the panel. So today's panel, actually, I'll name it. It's Post-Secondary Matters Now More Than Ever. And what goes to organizations and national nonprofit that works really closely with our schools and our districts to make sure that students are receiving the tools and resources they need during the school day to help them make informed decisions about what their post-secondary pathway will be. I myself identify as a first-generation college student, and I am a product of many, many nonprofits, some of our competitors, and we all do amazing work. And we've had a lot of things happen in our country over the past couple of years that's made our current population, Generation Z, question if post-secondary is worth it. What's the value? And so we're going to spend some time today just deep diving into what does post-secondary mean and what is the value today as of August 2025. So a few of the learning outcomes, I'm going to run through these really quickly because I know you don't want to hear from me, you want to hear from our panelists. I want us to walk away with a basic and shared understanding of the value of post-secondary education in California and what are the pathways that students can take. I think we often grow up post-secondary pathways and we immediately think four-year institution. That is not everybody's journey. Also, that's not everybody's pathway by design. And so what does exist for our students and where do we see ourselves helping them reach those goals? We're going to do a refresher on different post-secondary pathways available, specifically in outer state, that certifications, licenses, and other qualifications that ultimately lead to economic mobility. And lastly, because we are a coalition, we are always thinking about action items. We're going to just go through some, what are some actionable information and strategies we could use to improve our work and to move post-secondary and workforce opportunities forward in California. So that was a mouthful. I just want to reiterate what Mayor said. There's going to be some time at the very end, about 10 minutes for Q&A. So if you want to write your questions down as they come up, you can raise your hand. A volunteer will come by and pick those up. And then they'll bring them up here. And if there's too many, I will try to see where there's some commonalities that we'll ask the panel. But hopefully you can get to all of your questions at the end. But I just want to do a quick introduction of our panelists, and then we'll jump into the very first question. Policy. Okay. For sake of time, I will not go over this verbatim, but this week NCCPC's 3-year policy agenda was released. I encourage you to scan the QR code. You can look into what the 4 priority issue for this the next 3 years will be at a high level. If you had that slide, I'll just high level date them. Protecting student data. We know that's always been important. NCCPC has been doing that work for a while. But over the past 2 years, we know that students' data has been used to target specific demographics in a not so great way. And so protecting student data is still important to us. And the next 3 years, we'll be working to make sure that that's at the top and the forefront of all of our work. Second, safeguarding and strengthening financial resources, amplifying early wealth building programs, and then lastly, ensuring racial inequity, gender equity, which we know if we are not keeping an eye on those two, then we are not posing any disparities at all. And so I encourage you to engage with the policy agenda. Again, it just came live this week. I want to say it went out on your email, but you also have it on your phone. If you would like, talk about it with somebody at lunch. So today we have an amazing panel of individuals. First, we have Catalina Cifuentes, Riverside County Office of Education Executive Director, and CSAC Commission Chair and Scholarship Investment Board Member. Dr. April Romo, California State University Assistant Vice Chancellor for Strategic Enrollment Management and NCCPC Advisory Council member. And Camille Yanis Banea. I got it. Sorry. We talked about this too. We worked up there. I'm the Vice President of Community and Impact Systems Change at Sobrato Philanthropies. All right. So the first question I have for you all is, what do we mean by post-secondary when we talk about its value? And what is a post-secondary program? I want to encourage you all to have you define that in your roles and then use this opportunity to share a little bit more about yourself as well. So we'll want to start with you.
Okay, good afternoon. Me, all right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you today. And yes, the guidance was share a little bit about yourselves first. And so I am a daughter of Filipino immigrants, born and raised in East San Jose. I'm a product of the Eastside Union High School District. I know there's some leaders from that community here today. And really, when I think about post-secondary, I really think about it as it relates to the ultimate outcomes that we want to see in our communities. That's the value. Yes, there's the individual values, which I feel like I, as a student, was able to access. The individual values of having access to greater opportunity, having greater access to economic mobility. But really, and I think the frame of today's panel, why is it more important today than ever, is it's really about justice, right? It's about racial justice, it's about gender justice, and ultimately about economic justice and inclusion. And that is the value to individual people, but really that is the value to our society. And so when we're thinking about it from an investment standpoint, why is that important? So I'll take one story from my own personal background. And some people have heard me say this, and this is not to disparage a school district. I am very proud of Eastside Union High School District. But I also know how much limited resources create barriers for students. And, you know, my family experienced upward mobility while I was growing up. My mom did have a 4-year college diploma and my dad did not. But he was able to really benefit from tech and access to manufacturing jobs. And so when it was my turn, I was able to have a really great kind of foundation to build from. And when my class graduated from high school, there was a Working News article actually about Eastside Union and how it was the first year they were producing the largest number of students who were going to a 4-year college. I mean, we were like front page in the Mercury News. It was great. So excited about it. My family was so excited about it. But it wasn't actually until I was at UC Berkeley and had a chance to unpack that data. And so data-driven work is really important. Unpacked that data and saw that it was actually only 4% of my graduating class. And that's actually what put me on a track to be in nonprofit and social justice work from the very beginning. I was actually on track to do for-profit marketing and comms work, but that work in ethnic studies really turned my path, and I've been in social justice movement work since then. And for me, I really think about all of this from a place of place-based work centered on people. So if we're not talking about the students that we are focused on for the Sobrato organization, that's low-wage housing burdened individuals and families, many whom are immigrants in our community, many whom are English language learners. This is our target population at Sobrato, and we really think about it in the context of place, and we really think about it in the context of, I think Patrick said it, wraparound services, holistic cradle to career opportunities. And so that's the lens that we bring this to work, and that's how we define kind of what are the ultimate outcomes of post-secondary, but what does it actually take to get there?
Good morning, everybody. Pleasure to be here with you. To share a little bit about Fine Journey, I think it's important because it really drives passion behind my work. I was a first generation low income college student. I was in no way, form, or shape tracked to go to college when I was in high school. And I started at a community college because that was the only thing I knew in the city that I lived in. And also was a student parent. So before we were called student parents, at a very young age, and really focused and was able to make it through in a very non-traditional way. So when I look at our students and what post-secondary means to me, I also look at family members. And my brother, for example, he never went to college. He went to welding school. So when we talk about post-secondary, I think it's important to talk about anything training beyond high school. How do we help students find their path? And that path is different for everybody. We also need to talk about the lifelong learners because we also know that our industries are changing. If you just think about AI and how that is changing, people need to reskill, upskill, go back to school, earn certificates. But we also need to think about the supports and services that need to be provided to students for them to be successful. It's not just about access to education, it's about providing the support services and making sure that we're doing that in an equitable way.
Thank you so much for having me and come from Southern California, so Calum's campus, and I support 22 school districts, over 430,000 K-12 school districts in Riverside County. And so just hearing Able Talk shows us how we spend together because that's exactly our message in Riverside County. It's about options after high school, finding the students fit and match, what are their passions, what are they into, but knowing you're going to be more than a high school diploma to have a livable wage, health insurance, and all of the above. And so we continue to push us across our county, but I think part of that, people don't realize Riverside County has the lowest amount of college-educated adults and that it's living there. And it is high station. So yes, I had a hard year of your help. The work is tough. I'm in the trenches, and my students have come from families that necessarily have the information. I myself, same thing, first generation, a daughter of undocumented immigrants. I just would have been on this family side of the students, back then, right? And so I share that with that because they're school dependent, it's so important that we are much more involved if we're going to really make these impacts. But I'm also careful to push post-secondary ops, right? And make sure it's not just warrior calls, not studio calls. But what we do talk about is we need to allow parents and families and guardians that supply the custody control of the children about the future. And that is something we don't do well. In our county, we don't do well as a state, right? You just kind of doesn't make these paths for them or assume. And I think that's the biggest piece is I want students to leave high school knowing they had the opportunity to go to a CSU or a 2-year or a trade school or welding school. Like they were making an educated decision about their future and not a default decision. And I think for me, that's what it's about, that access piece and really letting them, I would say, really exercising the custody and control of the children and letting them decide, informing them what that weeks.
Thank you. As you all were talking, I was just sitting here thinking everyone on the panel just shared some engagements of their life, being first in their family to go to college, having family with some college education, some without. And I think it's super powerful to have we're women up here representing that and speaking about why the severe guys mornings. And Camille, I keep calling you first. I know you. Sorry. But you were just speaking about data in 2024. So last year there was some data published by the Gallup Group, and it was saying how 68% of Gen Z students said that they want to pursue a higher education, but only like 22% of those kids actually felt prepared, that they felt like they had what they needed to figure out what was next. And so the next question is about data, and I want to get a little bit more specific, and we'll ask you some other people. I want to hear from you. Like, will you make a case of post-secondary education? Where do you turn both within your organizations and elsewhere? And then what is the data telling us?
Thank you. From a CSU perspective, we have a lot of data. Sometimes we're not always good at using it and sharing it, but I'll just highlight some things that we're working towards. So one of the things that we know within the CSU is we're continuing to improve access. A lot of people still think that it's really hard to get into a CSU. For first-time freshmen and for transfer students, our admissions rate is over 90%. So I just want to make sure that people know that there is a lot of access for students directly to go to the CSU. 60% of our graduates, our undergraduate students, are students of color. We are also really the transfer serving institution in the state. For fall 24, we had over 54,000 students transfer to us from community colleges. And so our student makeup is much like a community college. And some people, and I'm just going to say this because sometimes when we're in front of state policymakers, they say to us, well, the UC doesn't have a problem. Why do you? And our student population is very different. We are designated as the access institution of the state. Our graduation rates are continuing to rise, and we have improved steadily since 2015, but we still know we have more work to do. We still have equity gaps that exist. And also we know that basic needs matters. So some of the work that's been happening around housing. Our tuition is not that expensive, and over 70% of our students that apply for financial aid pay no tuition. But the cost of living is what is barrier. So how do we work towards that? And then the other thing I'll just share is the CSU has produced over 125,000 graduates this past spring. So we are one of the main economic engines of the state. For every dollar that the state invests in the CSU, we produce $5.19 for the state. 1 in 10 employees in the state of California is a CSU graduate, and 1 in 20 in the nation are CSU graduates. So we are really one of the, not just the state's economic engine, but a national economic engine as well.
So I'll lift up a bit. Sabrata Philanthropies, for those of you who are not local, we are a multi-generational for-profit and philanthropic entity with 3 enterprises: capital, real estate, and philanthropy. And we are very place-based. So our focus is here in this region, Silicon Valley, which we describe as Santa Clara, San Mateo, and Southern Alameda County. But we also do statewide policy work. And so I will be the first to say I'm not a post-secondary expert. I would credit Hannah Mong, who's in the room today, as well as our statewide policy director, Robert Tequina, also in the room. A lot of work into an education is really guided by Hannah and Robert, so I definitely wanted to shout them out. But for us as a place-based funder, we are looking at data at the regional level, and we are really undergirded by U.S. Partnership on Mobility from Poverty. And so when we think about post-secondary, it's how does post-secondary sit in that ecosystem, and how is it central to supporting students, especially English learners, and like I mentioned earlier, low-income and housing burden individuals and families kind of at the center of that. And really, we are looking, based on that framework, at outcomes tied to economic success, power and agency, and belonging. Tied to that framework, there are measures of mobility. Some of the things that we're looking at are kind of financial health. What is the share of households in this region that can meet their financial needs? And if you track like just Silicon Valley data, you will know that only 30% of households in this region can actually meet their basic needs, which in the Bay Area, that is alarming. Especially when there is so much wealth. I think I heard 1 in 10 of the residents holds most of the money in this region. And so we, as a Sabrata organization, are continuously to think about like how do we use our tools to shape those, to change those inequities. But really, all of the data that we're looking at, whether it's neighborhood by neighborhood,
census tract by census tract. We are really working to have it informed directly by the experts in this room, as well as the residents themselves who are being impacted directly by these students. So we are very proud that in the last year we have stood up several spaces, one of them being our grantee working group, which I always get the acronym wrong, and I always have to say it longer. Northern California College Promise Bullshit. It's a part of, and Mayor is on that committee. And so with this committee, alongside people who are working on many different kinds of things, direct services, economic inclusion, employee ownership, they are all sitting in this space together to really think about data in different ways and how do the data connect, how do they build off trends from each other. And again, how is this ultimately impacting that target population that we are really focused on? And so that's kind of how we are engaging in data. And we're really excited because we know that all of you in this work are the experts, and we as philanthropy should not be designing programs and strategies without you all being at the center of that work.
Okay, so if you, however, we're very data driven. Our motto is if you can't measure it, we shouldn't be doing it. Can't measure it, we shouldn't be doing it. And so we are, the county office is still the county office in the state that has comprehensive data sharing agreements of all of our school districts in Riverside County. And I say comprehensive because you hear a lot about the different data sharing agreements. If you were getting with a student, I could tell you they passed their AK test, if they're on track for a 3G, if they apply to this campus, and maybe like Cal State down the street within a few minutes. Comprehensive live, not all types of data, but live, so we can definitely address the needs of our students. And we've been doing that for more than 10 years, and we also track our students up to 8 years after they graduate as well to work on some of the partnerships and look at those trends. I think the two things just recent that aligns with a lot of the session to hear is I got the sessions around my nephew at that because right away competitive in me and what do not I do not. Where for example I thought blue emission a CSU pilot project, but this is something for 10 years like you've talked and met is how can we do the direct emissions. And so we just, this last year, we just finished the Waters of Strike Nations pilot in the nation. For the Riverside family and the Mason partnership with Underground Law and the CSU Chancellor's Office, they directly met over 17,000 test students. And you hear a lot of the buzz of like, we do direct emissions. No, we didn't give them a flyer with, you're in, you have a 3.1. We data shared directly, K to April, over 17,000 students that were eligible that met the CSU criteria. Data shared wise, she then admitted them, sent them personalized messages. We got them to apply within 30 minutes directly. And we knew. I mean, it is not just here's a flyer and you're in. No. So we hear other people out in the nation, they're doing direct division now like us. And I confirmed the city system, the community, the Chicago Public Schools, they're not doing it like California has just done it. And I share that because what we're finding is just phenomenal. They are around. Our students want to we happen to debate job of know what options they have. So IQL's already confirmed that some of that data we should later on share. Well over 1,000 students still from our Canada Low that have committed to a CSU than year prior. We're doing preliminary data for A through G. I know we have some of our K-12 board members in the room. We're looking at already 1,300 more students in 1 year completed A through G in the last year. That wasn't by chance any day. Nothing. And that was by April giving them a letter that said you're in October 1st. I got you. You can get in 10 East 10. If you don't, Rain Valley College or Riverside Community College, you can go there. But if you want to come here, we'll welcome you. And that anxiety, raise your hand when you apply to college. You had no anxiety if you would invest it. So I do that, and then everyone says, see it. Yes, remember that moment from my students, October 1, they had 10. And it just opened up the doors. And so I think there's so much opportunity there coming as a state because we're the pilot to hopefully launch this. And I share all the time with our college representatives because they laugh at the CSU. When I go, they come get in a golf cart. I'm like, be a kid. They want our students. I'm taking it. They take care of us and they really want to partner. But what I share is that there's plenty of students. It's about that fit and match, and we just kind of work together to find that fit and match. Just how do you fill all of our campuses, and how do we work together? And I think the part two that the number one barrier I see, and I hear that research about students being nervous about going, I'm here to tell you that it's not because they're not academic prepared. It's not because they didn't take UP chemistry. It's the other part of going to college that they weren't prepared for. Are they just as smart, just as capable? Riverside County has the highest graduation rate in the state of California for large counties. So lowest college educated parents, highest graduation rate. Yes, if you Orange County and rules. They say that, so they were very competitive. But I share that because my students are just as much as for you with parents that go to college. It's the other parts of going to college that they don't know how to navigate. I heard, some conversation about we have to do this within the school day. That's what we do. We build our problems within the school day. And so, I would say the number one barrier it was brighten COVID, but even more continues is the affordability conversation. And that's why in programs like Cal Kids are now getting us some sessions this afternoon. And I had to get a huge shout out to Anna Lang, who's here from Flush Investment Board. You see, Yuki Yakinoa, he navigated with us over a year and had to be a 3 law change for the first county to have data sharing agreement so we can know which one of our students has a CalKids account. Because of this data sharing agreement, we've been able to end this law change. Where will the 70,000 students that claim their CalKids accounts, right? Of 70,000, but we have the first on schools that hit 100%. And what's interesting, so our board member, our Kate Toby is in the room. The schools that hit 100% claimed are my elementary schools. My first grader from second grade is talking about how to be for college that little, and I have pictures. I tell my computer won't see later. It's just on my first graders claim their accounts, and they're talking about going their credit cards. They go bad. So it's phenomenal. We've had transformation about financial literacy. And CalKids has been the entry point. And I share that just the thank you to the teachers. It's just such a small and mighty that they make this happen. Our goal say it 100% by 100% of them claimed. But the affordability conversation, we have to continue to have them because at the end of the day, that is the barrier. Even little fourth graders will say, you ask them, Harris Elementary School, I was in a fourth grade class, and I knew all of them had an account. Very low income school. And they raised their hand and said, I don't have to pay some number. She goes right everyone. She shouldn't have those limits already fourth grade. I said to her, what if I told you today you're gonna have $500 always? And just these attitudes and light bulbs went off. And you have teachers that have now transformed the classrooms for positive behavior interventions into money systems. They pay ranks of their desks, they pay rank that they forget the homework. They get money if they turn it in on time. So these programs that you're going to hear about today are just truly transforming our county. And I'll close out with just one more data point, as I know we have legislators on the years in the room. I think another thing we have to look at is there's multiple byproducts of the work we're doing in K-12 and higher ed that affect more than just education. What I mean by that is byproducts like lower juvenile felony arrest rates, lower poverty rates, reduce numbers of students in foster youth. These things we're seeing in Riverside County. If you get a moment, go on kidsdata.org. You won't believe Riverside County has one of the lowest juvenile felony arrest rates in the state of California. So that's lower than San Diego, lower than Sarah's. You would think Ellen Empire, Riverside County. Take a look at it, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen when we focus on the work, the green raise expectations. River is cast from in this case. Our expectations are cut from our sword. And so I think as leaders in the room, I just say as policy makers, is we got to do a better job of connecting those dots. And I promise you the return on investment that we received in our county to these programs is paying off in more ways than just graduation rates and make the kids.
Thank you, Sayat, for that. So we only have a few minutes left, and Kelly actually answered one of the questions. No, that's amazing. So I'd love to hear from Dr. April and Camille. If you can merge this in 2 minutes or less. We have a lot of elected officials and funders in the room, so I would love for you to give your pieces of advice around what they can do to ensure that students have access to pathways to post-secondary. As we've defined it, it looks very different here. And so you can give any advice to the folks in the room. And if you would also like to add, I feel like we haven't talked enough about, and I know we don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but just why is post-secondary important now? So the value of that and the value of the elected officials and funders in the room helping us access that for our kids. April?
Well,
I think that we have to talk in the realities of why post-secondary education is so valuable. It is one of the strongest predictors of upward mobility. And when we fuel students and families, it's a multi-generational impact. It doesn't just happen with that first generation. It moves forward. We also know that students who receive a bachelor's degree going through post-secondary education, bachelor's degree students take $1.3 million more over their lifetime than a person with a high school diploma. These students have greater career flexibility, resilience during economic downturns, and as I talked about, the intergenerational impact. From a policymaker standpoint, I think we all know that our world is shifting from a federal perspective. So how can we protect and expand financial aid? With some of the changes that have happened at the federal level that will be implemented in the next year, you will see a huge impact on graduate and professional students. The funding has gone. Parents can no longer help grad students pay for college. So how do we look within the state to make sure that we can continue those sites? I would also say that from a CSU perspective, we need to find a way to secure sustainable funding. The CSU is funded out of the general fund. So whenever there is a budget deficit, the CSU gets to cut. Luckily, we did not get cut as much as the original 8% for this coming year. We only got cut 3%. But our funding is very up and down, but yet we are expected to project enrollment and grow and do all these things without any funding when we're trying to support first-generation students, low-income students, foster youth students, and you can't help those students be successful without those funding opportunities.
I would start by saying really grabbing the narrative of the value of post-secondary education and also the value of holistic multi-generational career pathways is something we as a community really need to do. From a private foundation standpoint, I think we really need to shift away kind of collectively from funding siloed nonprofit organizations or siloed initiatives and really what is the value add of each organization and initiative, and how does it stitch together to then create that multi-generational cradle to career pathway tied to place? Without that kind of clear narrative, we try to get students and parents engaged in this kind of work, and we can't get voters engaged in this work. And really for funders, I've seen kind of in this time of scarcity, especially, it then kind of starts to force us also back into the scarcity mentality of like which initiative, which is it housing or is it education? But rather, how do we just like Naval been talking about this morning, how do we show the connections between all of these things? At the Sprout organization, we have 4 issue areas. We now know that they are interrelated. We are no longer operating them as silos. Educational equity, housing security, climate action, and economic mobility. And we believe, investments in these 4 things, when integrated and done strategically in the region with direct investments, you can make huge impact on the ground. And when tied to statewide policy, then you can set the conditions across the state to make that work happen. And it's not like kind of left to the regional players or even sometimes neighborhood nonprofit organizations. But I used to be the executive director of someone's maker, where it feels like that's all on your back as a small and mighty organization trying to do that kind of at the systems level. Some of the things that we're really excited about right now at Sobrato, just to put a plug out there, I'm very excited about thinking more and more about public-private partnerships. Super proud to have been a funder of the K-16 Collaborative. We're looking really deeply right now at the Sparta Eastside Promise Initiative. We are inspired by the Children and Youth Master Plan that the City Council of San Jose have passed, and we really want to think about how do all the the departments feed into that plan, again, rather than siloed departments. And in San Mateo County, the Shared Prosperity Coordinating Council is also bringing us a lot of excitement. So for private philanthropy, the more we can align and really start to leverage each other's dollars, especially in this climate, is really important. And so my call to action for some funders and policy makers in this room is, how do we collectively work to fund access and reduce barriers?
How do we focus our efforts on the completion of post-secondary? And again, I agree with the panelists. It's not only about a 4-year education. We have brought in our perch at Sabato to also include trades, vocational training. Hannah was the first one who brought our first grants to the community college districts in this community as well. So all of that is really kept me Murray. Let's sign defragmentation. Every nonprofit has a value to add programmatically. Maybe we don't need all of these infrastructures though. Like I am very worried about sustaining the number of organizations we have in this climate. And so I heard on a national call, how do we keep the work going, and maybe not the organizations necessarily, but the work needs to continue. And so how do we get smarter working together to make sure that the work continues, and again, that the end beneficiaries are getting the specific supports that they need.
Thank you. I have one question from the audience, and then I'm going to wrap us up, and we're going to give some instructions for lunch. I'm actually going to ask Dr. April. So someone asked this, and I feel most positioned to answer it. Recently the Justice Department declared DEI unlawful. And we are just dying to know, in your position, just how is higher ed institutions preparing and or responding to this? And it's okay. This is so new, and I want to say it's okay if we don't know yet. Because I have been talking to lots of peer CEOs and executives, and we're thinking about how this impacts our students. How does this impact the work that we do on the populations that we serve? There's a lot of roles that were created, I would say, in 2020, right? That were all DEI. And a lot of the people filling those roles, first-gen, low-income folks looking for upward mobility, and then those roles are being cut, right? And so we are thinking about how do we continue the work, but now it's considered unlawful. Would love to hear how you all are thinking about that.
That's the question of the day. But even though the letter came out, the Department of Justice letter came out on July 29th, there was also, we call it the Valentine's Day letter, which was Dear Colleague letter on February 14th. So we have been, what I will say is that we are continuing to do the work and look at our mission. We just may be changing the name of that work. Your AVP of DEI is now your AVP of student success. You were, and in all honesty, that's the work that we do every day in the CSU, is to support all of our students to be successful. So we are continuing to do the work that needs to be done to support our students in the state of California.
Also, I want to say, I want to think about how to summarize this, and it's time to part. I was taking a lot of notes. There's a lot of good data. And there was a few things that kind of jumped out to me. I think, we heard folks talk about elementary school kids with their CalCut accounts, which is exciting, right? And then we also heard folks talk about, but it's not just them getting there, it's about them completing. And I think the biggest takeaway is that education still matters. Dr. Abel, I never heard that statistic before. I think someone with the bachelor's degree earns $1.3 million, he said, over their lifetime. And so we know that even if it's not a bachelor's degree, our young people need some type of education post-high school. And it is up to us to help them figure out what does that look like and make sure that we don't all push them to a linear path, because we know that's not what success is, and that's not what everybody's journey will look like. I also appreciate, Camille, your insights just around the whole ecosystem. I used to work in higher ed, and I will say what higher ed looked like before the pandemic and then what higher ed looked like after the pandemic was very different. Students were coming to, I used to run at Sanford, so this is a very research institution. First-gen low-income students were coming to the campus, and we were not prepared to support them with everything they needed. That was mental health support, that was housing security, food security, and that wasn't just when they were enrolled, this is also when they left. In order for them to return, they have to be well outside of that. So when we're thinking about what's next for our students, thinking about the holistic communities that they're in and what can we be going to move that for as well. So thank you all, April, Camille, and Kyle. We know we appreciate you joining us today.